Now, moving into a presentation of my own, using data that we've got from the surveys that we do when people buy a car or don't buy a car, lost sales surveys, and also from a survey that we did called State of the Nation, which we conducted with a number of groups where we asked their customers is what they thought about different things in regards to motor retailing in the future. So we've kind of got three chunks to talk about and then some lessons to take away. And I hope you find these really practical as well as informative. So firstly, we're going to talk a little bit, not for very long, about what happened when people emerged from lockdowns, then about the electric dreams, or indeed the electric reality, if we take what Anita and John have been saying to us, and then also about people and digital purchasing as well. As I say, these are from surveys that we've conducted over the past few months. So emerging from lockdowns, what did we find when we asked people what they were doing in May this year? Well, we found that people were returning to using their cars much more than they were. So no surprise, and I guess this data is superseded by the fact that we're all here today and people are able to come to work, and it's not just about shopping. So during the pandemic, motoring was really limited to shopping, essential travel for key workers, and very little for leisure. Now that's obviously bumped back up again, so people are going to work and they're enjoying themselves. And during the pandemic, we saw a huge decline in the amount of driving people were doing, particularly amongst older people. So that's a little bit of history lesson. But what's really interesting is what you guys did during the pandemic. So for all the questions that we asked, I don't expect you to read this, by the way, we asked what happened as we emerged from different stages of the lockdown. So what happened before March the 23rd last year, what happened as we came out of the first lockdown, in the period from June to November, then the second lockdown as we come after that, the local stuff over Christmas, and then the third lockdown. And one of the things that came out was we looked at the promoter score of people who bought cars during those periods by different types of purchase. So whether they inquired over the phone, whether they inquired online, or whether they physically visited the dealership. And what's quite interesting to see is that people that inquired over the phone and made online inquiries as we emerged from the first lockdown weren't happy. So the promoter score dipped as we were struggling to adapt to what the circumstances were. But as you can see, both for online purchase and for people who made online inquiries, as time has progressed, we've got much, much better at handling those inquiries and building processes in, both to our websites and the way we answer the phone. So you can see that now, actually, inquiries over the phone are scoring a higher net promoter score than inquiries made physically in the dealership. And that's because we're all a bit short-staffed. And so there's been a little dip just recently in the promoter score for people who are physically visiting the dealership because they can't necessarily find the right people to talk to. I know we're buying a car for one of my sons, and actually getting hold of people, even though we know them, is a little bit harder than it was. The other thing that we can see is a strong link between the promoter score, and we know from previous years when I've talked here, the promoter score drives stock turn and drives profitability. There's a massive link between the promoter score and contact after delivery. So that's people making a call within 3 to 5 days of the vehicle being delivered. And again, I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers, but what we can see, and if we look at this one here, if we look at the number of detractors, is if we look at the averages here, if you've not been contacted after delivery, 11% of people are detractors. So that's what, 1 in just under 10 are detractors. So that contact since delivery is really important, because if we make it, then we give them the chance to be signposted on the questions they're going to get asked, but we also give them the chance to tell us why they wouldn't give us 10 out of 10, so we can fix it. It's the catch-all at the end of the sales process. And so that reduces the number of detractors if you contact people after delivery to just 3%. So down from 1 in 10 to 1 in 30. So it's a really important part of the sales process, is making sure we contact customers after delivery. Of course, that gives you the chance to build referrals and the rest. So the key takeout from that bit, if you like, what we can see as we emerge from lockdowns is that people are returning to normal, but credit where credit's due. As an industry, we've done an excellent job at gearing up to be able to service them, whether they're inquiring over the phone, whether they're inquiring online, or whether they're turning into physical inquiries. But what I would say is, if there's one thing you can take away from this meeting today that you can do tomorrow, It's make sure your sales team are contacting customers after delivery. It's that chance to fix any problems and build a relationship for the future. So that's emerging from the pandemic. When we turn to Electric Dreams, we asked people what their future intention was to purchase. And that's people who are your customers. So people that drive franchise dealer products and they bought from some of our clients who participate in the survey. And what we can see is that there's a slight decline in the number of people who say that they're going to buy a petrol vehicle, a 25% decline in people that say they're going to buy diesel, and an increase in both hybrids and electric vehicles as well. So there is that shift that we've been talking about around what people, not in general, not the great opinion polls that we might see, but actually car buyers that are buying cars from you guys today, what they're thinking. And one of the interesting things is that when we look at how soon they're looking to change, is that if we look at people who are changing as soon as they can, a lot of them are sticking to the traditional petrol and diesel vehicles. But as they look further out, maybe 12 months out, there's a lot of indecision. So this grey bar here is the people that are undecided. And I think, and it kind of ties in with what Anita and John have just been talking about, Catherine too, is that's the opportunity for retailers to really take the lead, because Cinch and Kazoo and all the rest of them can't physically demonstrate the cars to people at the moment. You can sit someone in an electric car or a hybrid and let them see what it feels like. You can let them drive it. And that's something the online competitors can't do. So that level of indecision, that confusion amongst people is something that we can definitely pick up on. We also see that if people are driving an electric car already, to Anita's point, 90% of them are going to go electric next time, and those that aren't are going to go hybrid. So maybe it is stuff to do with range or something, practical issues that's affecting them. But we can see that what people are driving now has a massive impact on what they think they're going to drive next. But again, indecision is probably the key here. And then when we look at the age groups of people that are looking to go electric, what we can see is the under 25s, not many of them are thinking about electric at the moment because they can't afford it and they can't probably have access to charging at home. So the under 25s are a little bit underrepresented, although they may wish to go electric, they can't do because of either money or access to charging points. Because what we see is that about half the people we surveyed have not got access to home charging yet. So it's important that we, as an industry, try and help people through that jungle. So if you like, and 95% of people that have got electric vehicles have got home charging. So it's kind of like you can't really have an electric vehicle without having home charging in most people's views. So the key takeout from that bit is that consumer consideration is a lot around what they're driving now, and their current vehicle, a bit around complacency and age. So the very young and the very old are less likely to want to go electric right now, and these concerns around infrastructure that have already been talked about. The opportunity, I think, for everyone in this room who's got really good at handling inquiries over the phone and doing deals over the internet, is to be the consumer champion to help the consumers through that bewildering choice of electric, hybrid, PHEV, etc. But also to help them to understand that there is information out there. And I know there's been some announcements recently from some groups on where they're partnering with people to help people understand not just about charging points, but about tariffs as well. When we were kids, we had Economy 7 electricity. I don't know if that dates me or what, but it would charge up overnight and release the heat during the day. So when it was cheap electric, it would charge it up. And that's exactly what people should be doing with their electric vehicles. But I think, again, there's a lot of information to get out to consumers, and we're in the box seat to do that. So I'm sure that that'll be something that you'll all take from today. Then when we look at the digital future, what happened to people in terms of traveling and using online during the pandemic and as we've emerged is, as been talked about before, people initially, when it's a little bubbles a little bit, where they were buying very locally, but then as we've come out of the pandemic, then people have started to buy from more distance than they ever have before, as they're taking advantage of packages perhaps that Auto Trader are offering, but also just generally prepared to travel to buy a vehicle because they're using online a lot more. So you can see the distance travelled. It's been a trend from 2016 when we first started doing surveys on this, forwards, and it's always been trend towards more distance over time, but it was certainly exaggerated as we came out of the pandemic. However, it has dropped back a little bit now as people are able to go and shop local a little bit more. But overall, what we've seen from 2017 to this year is that people are prepared to travel now up to 40 miles to get 80% of their journeys, whereas it used to be just 24 miles. So people are prepared to travel 40 miles rather than 24 as in 2017. So that's moved quite a lot forward. Let's not neglect, though, the local buyer, because if you look at this one, and again, this deck will share so you can have some time to study it if you choose. You can see that when we look at the proportion of customers that come from online, when they're very local, it's only 30%. So if they're really local, if they can tie a kick, then a lot of consumers are still doing that. So as a marketeer, I'd still be thinking leaflet drops and things in the real locale can do a job, or cars at the supermarket car park can do a good job. Electric cars at the supermarket car park can do a really good job to get that awareness. But what you can see is there's quite a steep incline to even when people get to 20 odd miles away, 70% and then 80% of people are having been online. So online has definitely grown. No surprise there. And again, you can see this is a trend that's been going with our customers, if you like, since 2016, and was exaggerated again during the period of the coming out of the last lockdown, and has just dipped back a bit now again as people are able to go onto forecourts. People like visiting dealerships, and that's something that we should be pleased about. You can see here the two graphs in terms of online and distance sort of go in line with each other, so that the online is driving the distance purchase. We also looked at Auto Trader's analysis on the value of vehicles. So you'll be familiar with the fact that a lot of vehicles carry the lower grade, good and higher price model. And what we see here is that if the price is low, then people are, funnily enough, prepared to travel further distances than if they're not. And that particularly applies with prestige vehicles, but applies across the board. And then as the value gets less, then people will travel less distance to buy them. I guess that's probably common sense, but it's good to see it represented in data. Then we look at people's buying preferences. So how do they want to buy in the future? Because we've all got excited about digital and our capabilities, and we've done a bloody good job. But when we ask people how they want to buy, about 5% of people want to buy online with click and collect. About 5% want to buy online with home delivery, but the majority of people want to go back into dealerships to buy. A number of people, probably people that are more vulnerable, really don't want to do anything until the pandemic's completely over. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I think they'll get more used to the circumstances we face. When we look at how that breaks down, it's younger people, so under 45s, I can't believe I'm saying that's younger, but under 45s are the people that want to do their online purchase. So whether they're under 25, 26 to 35, 36 to 45, they're the ones that are more likely to want to go online to purchase. And it's the much older ones that are really concerned about the pandemic still. But as I say, people want to go back into showrooms to buy cars. It's good news. When it comes to what's going to drive them into the showroom, we ask a question in all of our surveys is about what made people visit the dealer on that occasion. So this isn't absolutely scientific, it's opinion-based, but this is what people say. So what we can see here is online dominates, with 65% of people either using a classified website, visiting the dealer website, or using Google or even social media. And so there's no surprise there. But good past experience is still really important. That's 20% of people. And recommendation from friends and family is 11% of people as well. So that idea of endorsing and recommending works as well. I won't dwell on this, but that's the looking for the car on a website is more pronounced amongst people looking at either prestige cars or using supermarkets or multi-site facilities where there's a lot of brands on site. When we look at how that's changed over time, you can see, found the car on a website from 2018, and in 2018 we thought we were pretty digital, right? But it's changed from 23% to 31% of people in 2021. And we can see changes as well in the dealer website, but also in the good experience in the past. I'd hope that's because people are taking customer service seriously, and that's increasing as well. We did see a dip in the amount of people who said that they drive past every day because they weren't commuting, and also in the level of people that were recommended by friends and family, because they weren't able to see people. But what we are seeing is that trend reverse a little bit now that we're able to actually talk to people and show them cars. When it comes to the manufacturer websites driving traffic into your businesses, it's the prestige brands that are driving most of the traffic, or more traffic than the volume ones. So people who are an Audi driver are more likely to visit audi.co.uk, with 14% of the traffic coming from audi.co.uk into the business in terms of sales. I said about recommendation bouncing back, and what we can see here is during the pandemic, recommendation by friends and family just tails off a little bit, and then starts to bounce back as we are able to share our vehicles with our friends and family. That probably really works in terms of getting this electric evangelism out there as well. And we're also seeing, again, a bit of the return of the walk-in. So people do want to go to dealerships. So again, that dipped off during the pandemic, but it's going back up again now. So one of the questions we asked, and we asked this because we wanted to know for our own benefit as much as anything else, is do reviews matter? In particular, do dealer reviews matter? So what we see is that over half of people either agree or completely agree that they read dealer reviews, not just car reviews, but actual dealer reviews before they make a purchase. Yes, and then another 20% of people somewhat agree with that statement as well. So it's important, if you can, to get reviews and keep them front and center of your marketing. So from that bit, the takeouts that I've got are online search certainly dominates. So everything we've heard about digital so far, and what I know we're going to hear in the last two speeches, is that's really important. And we mustn't neglect the OEM websites, particularly if we're selling prestige cars, because they will bring you some traffic. Then there is, though, that residual of people who want to buy locally, want to visit a dealership, aren't going to look online. So that sort of local marketing stuff, getting involved in the community, that's still important, stuff that we should maintain. And it's good to see recommendation bouncing back. And maybe that recommendation can help us spread the word about electric vehicles as well. And then finally, dealer reviews matter to consumers, so it's important to keep those front and center. So the last questions we asked were about success and the love of driving. And what's really interesting here is that 70% of people agree or completely agree that they love to drive. So people love driving. It's a thing that we like to do. We like to socialize, we like to drive. We also asked if people like to feel successful. And again, just under 70% of people agreed with that statement or completely agreed with that statement. And what's interesting is that success, feeling of success and love of driving actually sort of correlate really nicely to each other. And then we look at how that works with brands. You can see, and this might be a bit controversial, but the prestige brands and Peugeot are up here in terms of the love of driving and liking to feel successful, and then other brands a little bit lower. So that's something to bear in mind when you're thinking about your marketing and your messaging is what are you trying to appeal to when it comes to customers? And I guess you can put that through the electric lens as well. So my key takeouts from today, and I hope you found that informative. You will be getting a copy of the deck if you want to see it. Firstly, it is returning to normal. We've done a really good job at gearing up to cater to online, but don't neglect the fact that people still want to come to dealerships. And make sure you contact your customers after delivery. It really will drive up your customer satisfaction, and that in turn will lead to more sales. When it comes to the electric dream, there's a lot of indecision out there amongst consumers. There's a bewildering choice, and we can be the consumer champions helping them through that journey. Speak to Paddy or talk to John about Eva, and make sure you're getting your share of the action. Getting more business online search dominates, there's no doubt about it. 65% of business is done for people who've been online before they come into your business. OEM websites are important, but don't forget about your local traffic, recommendations bouncing back, and dealer reviews matter to consumers. And then when it comes to success and love, well, the love of driving. People love to feel successful and they love to drive. And we're still the best place to experience buying a vehicle, buying a car. I guess you can do everything more or less these days online. You can get a job, you can find love, you can get a meal, you probably even get married online. But where is the fun, where's the thrill, and where's the humanity in that? Thank you for your time.